Hello magpies, and welcome to this special extended series wherein I explore all 144 official gods from the Forgotten Realms campaign setting that I recognise in my D&D games. While this may sound like an excessive number of gods, and it is, would you believe that this is not even a complete list of all Faerunian deities? Truly, Ed Greenwood, the creator of the Forgotten Realms, is a madman, and I love him for it. Depending on when in the history of Faerun your campaign is set, the pantheons may vary. Mortals ascend to godhood, deities kill one another and absorb their portfolios, and world-shattering events may drastically reduce the number of available gods. Nonetheless, these 144 should be more than enough for your needs. This first installment in the series is a brief introduction to storytelling, gods, and religion in D&D, as well as outlining how the remainder of this series will be structured. If you're just here for the official lore and don't really care to explore the topic deeper, you can probably afford to skip this video. In the next episode, I will be introducing some homebrew rules for religion and for divine spellcasters, and then, in the remainder of the series, I shall outline individual profiles of all of the gods for your storytelling reference. As a brief introduction to the topic, I will say that I am consistently fascinated by the capacity for humans to shape their environment through belief. From the athlete who relies on various placebo effects to compete at their physical peak, to the scientist who returns to the lab day after day, seeking that as of yet unknown revelatory connection that exists only through the process of drawing back the curtain between the ephemeral and the immortal until that one fateful day that may never come, when their acts of material devotion at last bear up the fruit of wisdom. So how do we tell stories that give meaningful insight into a religious experience to a D&D community that, in my long experience, consists primarily of nerds, gamers, and queer and trans folk? All groups that have traditionally had very poor experiences with and exposures to religion. Well, religion is a tricky topic, especially today in the shadow of the rise of religious fascism. I posit that one should not treat science as a divinely ordained source of certain knowledge, but only as the process by which we seek consensus upon knowledge and materially founded progress. Yet, in the same breath, one should equally not allow evangelical capitalism and internet-brained Catholic converts with Deus Vult memes instead of personalities define the process of seeking happiness, peace, and community that lies at the heart of faith, albeit sometimes hidden deep beneath the weight of social control that drives organized religion. Alain de Botton's book, Religion for Atheists, A Non-Believer's Guide to the Uses of Religion, it outlines various material benefits to how faith can supplement and improve our current secular society, such as promoting community, kindness, tenderness, humility, art, and ways of dealing with grief and pessimism and hopelessness. Qualities and abstractions that rampant capitalism tends to devalue, as the outcomes of these qualities cannot be easily monetized. Not to mention, of course, the change in perspectives that faith facilitates to value things that are not quite known one way or the other. Wisdom without doctrine. For indeed, a flexible mind makes for a better scientist. These qualities I promote are in no way exclusive to religion, but in the history of faith we have thousands of years of their example to learn from just at our fingertips, through which we may hope to one day tell better stories of our past than of merely a march of progress, with the modern man as the pinnacle over everything. Indeed, not when the modern age shudders at the threat of collapse after a brief flickering of the candle flame, compared to the eternity of history. I put it to you that we reject that very age of enlightenment that birthed the scientific revolution if we allow ourselves to cease to believe in that which we cannot presently see. Therefore, our fantasy storytelling of gods and divinities in our games need not be a total suspension of disbelief. Nor indeed should they be a lazily rewritten inversion of norms, where atheists would amount to flat earthers for denying the gods. Rather, I think that realistic world building draws from understanding the material benefit to people's lives that faith would provide, by which we allow our fantasy world to become loci for our own real-world social improvement, by which we may yet try to sketch out a better world, how a better world may yet appear, and mayhap even drag the achievable shards of that vision, kicking and screaming from the pages of imagination into being, seeking without proof and climbing with no tangible foothold in sight, only as an exercise in faith. Faith that this better future we have never known may yet one day emerge to those who will live long after our names are forgotten. So therefore, I offer up these 144 sacrifices of fantasy gods, allegories of philosophical, mortal, or natural laws given form and personality, that our better selves, heroically depicted in the stories we tell, may seek to praise these symbols, and in doing so, perhaps we may appreciate their material equal in our own world a little better. That even our silly game of dice and dragons may yet inspire our inner worlds to overflow into our environment. That we may one day become the heroes in our time that we would play were our lives but a story. As indeed, one day, stories they shall become to the dim ones who shall write the histories of man. Okay, still with me? Good. In this series we shall divide the deities of Faerun, or the old gods as they are known in my storyverse, into 17 categories, in the theme of banners marshalled for inspection, each with its own series of videos within this playlist. Behold their names. The 7 gods of knowledge represent our desire to bend the world to our whim, to structure the chaos of our dreams into meaningful narratives, to reach beyond the limits of our subjectivity and to know all that may be known, and then to wield that knowledge to shape our environment as indeed the mage manipulates the weave. The 8 gods of civilization themselves revere the human qualities that drive us to become better versions of ourselves and to band together and birth great systems, markets, hierarchies and societies, onto which we imprint ourselves and which in turn guide who we become. They are within and without the art we create, searching for that something over the horizon, the half-forgotten dream that even the gods may wonder at its beauty. The whopping 22 gods of nature represent the length and the breadth of our world. It makes sense in a way that there would be so many nature deities, for the natural world is beautiful, diverse, and unsurpassed in both cruelty and genius, such that so many cultures have given voice and intuition to every babbling brook, mossy stone, and breathtaking vista. For the interplay of natural forces is a dance, belying an energy that flows, breaks, and envelops like water, sunlight, or air. In nature, everything is one and many at once. The 4 gods of war stand as evidence of the darkness that lives within us, and of the necessity for vigilance against it. They may represent the enforcement of hierarchies, or the rage against them. The gods of war are divided, at conflict with their own meaning as they are against one another, to embrace strength and the intoxication of power, or to balance it upon a knife's edge. The 3 gods of death follow closely behind, hounds ever nipping at the heels of even the fastest runner. They represent the inevitability of decay, and the truth that one must learn to love if ever they are to find peace in life. For those who do not respect death's unyielding nearness must rage impotently into the night or sink into nepenthe as the black dog barks at the edge of earshot. The 5 gods of the light represent enigmatic ideals, the faith of the faithful for the perfection that always lies just out of reach. They are the gods of ambitious ideals and of dreams, the dream of a universal morality, of a community of like-minded souls, of world peace, of a clear division between light and dark that is recognizable to all, and the dream of laws that are fair in all applications. These gods, they dream the same dreams we do, and sound the horn to rally those dreams as a guiding light in the waking world of darkness. Opposing them are the 9 gods of darkness, greater in number, for the depths of despair may run deeper than hope may ever soar. These are the honeyed voices we hear in our darker times, the material honesty of our suffering, and the cause and the consequence of imperfection. Our stories need them, for as long as there is tension between what is and what could be, in the spaces between, we find the leering faces of our darker natures, and the obstacles that must be overcome. Far at the eastern marches of Faerun, the gods of Mulhorand are ruled by a pantheon of 10 living gods, walking the earth as priests and pharaohs. These are barely veiled fantasy retellings of the gods and lands of ancient Egypt, where the deserts, the rivers, the beasts, and the sky are all to be found in the material edifices of human achievement. The craftsmanship and the artistic wonders these living gods inspire in their followers elevates the consciousness of those that gaze upon the blessed land that blurs the line between the mortal and the divine. Beyond the gods of human society, of the land, of the night, and of the day, we find the non-human pantheons of those fantasy races that allow us to depart from the mundane, to gaze through a shattered shard of humanity viewed in a different light. Each represents a microcosm of the wider world, compressed into its cliché. The elves have 12 gods, known as the Seldarine. Though their worship has faded in my campaign, their legend remains as a delicate vision of eternal youth, terrible passion, childlike wonderment, and infantile obstinacy, all sparkling with stardust and light. Their depth of emotions, their arrogance, nobility, and beckoning liberal freedom. These themes inevitably emerge from the stories that are better understood through moonlit meditation upon the gods of the Seldarine. The dwarves heft a mighty 14 gods known as Mornden Saman. These are a blueprint for the fascinations and furor of stout folk. Their ideals are deeply conservative, unyielding as the rock and unchanging as the mountain, as quick to anger as lightning and yet as slow to resolve as thunder. Family, duty, tradition, wealth, greed, honor, ancestors, and oaths. The creed of the Mornden Saman may seem to lack nuance, but in fact they are stable even though they are tribal, warm though they are harsh, and both intuitive and procedural at once. The halflings hold up 6 gods known as Yondala's children. In my world, the Hin are a long-suffering race with a history of adversity at the outskirts of society. But with or without this narrative, the Yondala's children pantheon, it paints a picture of pastoral greens, the orange afterglow of a warm hearth after a hearty meal, and of the wind whipping hair over the shoulder of a brave defender setting out for new horizons. These deities epitomize homeland, community, and homely hearts in distant lands, keeping close the memories of better days. Little folk are used to being looked down upon, and therefore they make whatever corners they may eke out their own. The gnomes construct a pantheon of 8 gods, known as the Lords of the Golden Hills. They possess the tenacity of dwarves and the hopeful spark of halflings. But while those folk both look inward towards their own communities, the gnomish gods look outwards, with bespoke legends of ingenious underdogs, crafty tricksters and genius innovators, reshaping the world into a clockwork masterpiece, a journey unto itself. For profit, for fame, for a dream not yet articulated, or simply for the peace and the serenity of the world working as intended. The elves' dark cousins, the drow, secrete their cults in worship of 5 gods, known as the Dark Seldarine. Traditionally, rulers of the Underdark, being the deepest depths of miners' inquiry. In my world, the Drow have returned to the surface world a century after the demise of half of their pantheon to drown the world above in darkness. But in either case, the Drow gods are the storyteller's dark other, the alien inversion of beauty and grace, turned to cruelty and domination. Beware the Dark Seldarine's short blades and long memories in the Shadowed Lands. The 6 gods of the Orcs are revered as the tribe of He Who Watches. Their domains are a dark mirror held up to civilization, representing the allegorical fear of the bestial man, held in check by the self-censorious thresholds of shame and repugnance by which the civilized are counted, and by which man distinguishes himself from beast. But in contrast to human pride, one may find within the Orcish faith a certain honesty to self, albeit singular in mindset, that suggests a nobility that is liberated from airs and from pretense. And then finally, I shall explore the wild and exotic gods of the monstrous races. To the giants go a large pantheon of 9 deities, looking down upon their people's complex and diverse cultures and interests. To the dragons, a Spartan trinity of 3 gods, their shrines hidden from the world, for in whose name offerings total hordes of gems and coins piled high, leaving 13 known patrons of the exotic races, a mere glimpse seen through the explorer's looking glass from afar of the limitless lives of fantasy storytelling, in which we may find every allegory, opposite, and subverted glance given flesh and form to understand or to overcome as the threads of our stories unfold. So these are the banners by which I arrange my divine soldiers for inspection. Though I should say that as categories very rarely reflect their content completely, there will be overlaps and honourable mentions between these formations, of which I shall do my best to distinguish. But in the next video, I shall dedicate some time to the homebrew rules for worship and divine spellcasting that I use to centre faith and the symbols that we call gods at the heart of my storyverse. After which, we shall begin the journey true, with 144 steps along the way. Thank you, magpies, and I pray that you will enjoy this series and walk with me a while as we find gods and explore the divine.